Have you ever had that moment when you were thinking, did I make the right decision? And then you find out years later that that decision actually was the right decision. And yet you may not have always felt that way. In this intrinsic value series today, I'd like to introduce a story and let you decide maybe it was the right decision. Imagine being a mom that is a mom and a dad more often than not, and your child is at work with you and you have a commitment to your job, and you also need to have your child at work because that's the best option for you at the moment. And your child may be calling your name and not getting your attention. And then they have to actually, they're calling you by mom and then realizing that mom's not working. Let me call her by her name and see if that gets her attention, which did. And yet, as we were having a conversation, my son and I, imagine being that mom, and a conversation came up about the awareness that had there been a emergency tone to the mom, there may have been a different response than in the moment when they may have just been wanting something specific about their homework, something specific about a soda or a snack, who knows what it might be. Yet at the time, they weren't old enough to decipher when was the right time to ask, when was not the right time to ask. And at the time when you are covering multiple hats, you may not have the perspective or the awareness to say, here's the right time to ask. And so, intrinsically, you value your children. Intrinsically, you value providing an excellent service when you're hired for a specific job. And sometimes you get called from be in between one or the other. And sometimes you might feel a little bit of remorse, and it may take you years later to find out it was the right decision at the moment in most cases. And this is something we get to ask ourselves all the time. And again, sometimes it needs to be about reflecting and looking in the mirror or allowing somebody else years later to think about it and say, now I might understand a little bit better. And maybe I don't need to have that disappointment because it was the best decision at the moment. And it may take many years to figure that out. And yet, let me leave you with the concept of you are intrinsically valuable no matter what you do or how you do it. Who you are in the core of who you are is intrinsically valuable. And more often than not, we can allow our external circumstances to impact that core belief, that core value. And there is nothing extrinsic that can change that core gift of unconditional love that lives within you. Hopefully you hear that and get to experience that in this moment, and maybe you need to hear it in another moment. Feel free to listen again. Thanks for listening.